So today I'm going to be discussing a lecture that was given by Swami Narasingha, also known as Jagat Guru Swami, originally when he was part of ISKCON. Jagat Guru Swami left ISKCON. He got a new initiated name under Srila Maharaj, and he was very supportive of Srila Maharaj. And Srila Maharaj was one of the biggest cheerleaders of the 11 GBC gurus in 1978. He supported them, and he said they have to have worship as if they are acharyas, and we have to have faith in them as acharyas, and they have to have disciples, and they need to take the post of a Diksha guru, which means they're absorbing sins. So they're like 11 Jesuses now. Jesus absorbs sins. These 11 people are going to absorb sins too. So he elevated them to really the platform of messiahs. These 11 are messiahs. And Srila supported them in many, many different conversations that they had with the GBC at the time. And many of these conversations were then made into papers, position papers, by the GBC. So he was like a ghost writer for these GBC papers. They weren't really written by the GBC. They were simply comments made by Srila Maharaj, which were produced by the GBC as their position papers on Guru. So the first question asked to Narasingha Maharaj in this lecture is, how do people see you as a paramahamsa? And he answers that his disciples will see him as a paramahamsa, even though we, his godbrothers, will not see him that way. So the disciple sees the guru as a pure devotee, as a resident of Krishna Loka. So it's pretty much up to the disciple to decide how the guru is viewed. So we find this idea to be very dangerous, because if Srila Maharaj is saying that neophytes, like the 11, should be viewed as residents of Krishna Loka, then it becomes very difficult to challenge those 11 gurus, because now we're challenging the residents of Krishna Loka. We're challenging pure devotees. So this sets up a very fanatical situation. You know, if they start to deviate and we start to challenge their deviations, we're offenders, we're offending pure devotees, we're challenging the Messiah, we're challenging God's representatives on earth, and so on and so forth. So Narasingha Swami says it's up to the disciples to decide if a certain person is a paramahamsa or not. Okay, but that cuts us out. That means us, the godbrothers, who see that this person is deviating, we're not allowed to comment. We're not allowed to rein in the problem, because our commentary doesn't no longer matter. We're no longer part of the equation. It's the disciples who are seeing their guru as a paramahamsa, even if he isn't. And those of us who try to intervene are interlopers and troublemakers and offenders, and we can get our necks broken, or we can be killed because we're offending pure devotees. So this is a problem with Narasingha's idea. He's saying that it's all up to the disciples to decide who is a paramahamsa and who isn't, and that turns the whole society over to the brand new neophyte people. The brand new neophyte people get to decide who's worshipped in ISKCON and who isn't, and us, the senior elder devotees of the society, we're no longer part of the equation. The church elders can't decide, you know, if some guy walks into the church and says, I'm the Messiah, and he can fool a few of the people in the church into thinking he's the Messiah, the church elders have no input on that. They can't speak out, because it's up to the new people to decide the whole matter. That turns the authority of the society over to the brand new neophytes. The brand new neophytes are now deciding who is a guru and what is a guru. That will never work. You need the input of the senior elders of the society to decide what is a guru and what is not a guru. The newcomers are the last people who should be consulted on this kind of situation. Then Swami Narasingha asks, how do we know that Prabhupada was a paramahamsa? Is there any proof he was a paramahamsa? Can you say, what is your proof? That's what he's asking here. What is our proof that Prabhupada is a paramahamsa and you are not a paramahamsa? So now we are in a position where we have to prove that Prabhupada is bona fide and you, Narasingha Swami, are not bona fide. So it's a challenge, and he's putting Prabhupada on the table. We have to now prove that Prabhupada is a paramahamsa, and he is not a paramahamsa. So first of all, what kind of a follower of a guru would even say something like that? you have to prove that Prabhupada is bona fide in the first place. So he's challenging us to prove that our guru is bona fide before we can even question his position. So how do we know Prabhupada is a paramahamsa? Because he gave so many people Krishna consciousness. And he did not promote debauchees and deviants and sexual predators as acharyas like Sridhar Maharaj does. That's how we know he's different. He's different from Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada does not promote deviants, drunkards, and debauchees as acharyas. So that's why we know he's bona fide. He does not promote false acharyas. Number one, right out of the gate. There's our proof. But this really creates all kinds of problems because now we have to prove, for example, that Jayatirtha is not a paramahamsa. And Sridhar Maharaj said that it's the internal realization that counts. The external behavior is not what constitutes, the real situation with a guru. It's the internal only. So Jayatirtha, yes, he's having illicit sex, he's taking drugs externally, but internally he's serving Krishna. So this is the argument they came up with in 1979. Well, yes, Jayatirtha, he's deviating, but that's only external, Prabhu. You can't really worry about that. Internally, he is a pure devotee. And Kirtanananda and others began to preach that idea. But that idea came from Sridhar Maharaj. He said, we have to have faith in Jayatirtha, we have to promote faith in Jayatirtha even if he's deviating, because his deviations are all external. Well then, there's no standard anymore for guru. Externally he's deviating, but internally he's a pure devotee. We could say that about anybody. Any guy walking down the street, we could say he's a pure devotee. He's eating hamburgers, he's drinking beer, but that's all external, Prabhu. So this is how they changed everything around. We no longer had a standard for what is a guru and what is not a guru, because it's all subjective and it's all internal, and we can't gauge things by his external activities, which are that he's offering LSD to the shalagram, and he's taking LSD, and he's having sex with followers, and this and that and the other. That doesn't count. That's not part of the equation anymore. Then the godbrother asks, well, Srila Prabhupada came to America alone, and he published many books on the topic of Krishna consciousness. So the godbrother is trying to prove that Prabhupada is a pure devotee because of his activities. Narasingha Maharaj, yes, Prabhupada did that and much more, but that is external. Here we go. It's external. Do you mean to say that if an old man simply comes to America and publishes some books about Krishna, that we should consider him a paramahamsa? No. Then what is your actual proof? Okay, wait a minute. Some old man came to America and published some books about Krishna, but that's not proof that he's a pure devotee. Why would anyone say that about Prabhupada in the first place? It's very insulting. He's some old man who came to America and printed a few books about Krishna. That doesn't prove anything. Well, wait a minute. That proves everything. He came to America. He made people Krishna conscious. That proves he is a Krishna conscious person. Why do we need further proof? What is he even asking this question for? Why do we have to prove that Prabhupada is bona fide? Why is he challenging Prabhupada's position? So the godbrother continues, I have my faith, and I know in my heart that Srila Prabhupada is a paramahamsa. Narasingha Maharaj, yes, that is your proof. Your faith is your proof. Faith allows us to understand, to measure the standard, and that is the only real proof. No, that is not the real proof. All kinds of people have faith in all kinds of things which are false. They have faith in their bank balance, they have faith in their government, they have faith in their gurus, they have faith in their church, but there may be problems with their guru, because faith doesn't make the guru bona fide. The guru has to be bona fide independently of our faith. Just because I have faith that somebody is a pure devotee does not make that person a pure devotee. But Sridhar Maharaj emphasized this whole point. So when I was criticizing Jayatirtha, Sridhar Maharaj says, I shouldn't do that because I'm disturbing the faith of the disciples. Oh, the Shraddha, the faith. Oh, people like Pranjan are disturbing the faith in Jayatirtha. Well, why should people have faith in Jayatirtha? He's having sex. He's taking drugs. Why would we want people to have faith in such a personality? But Narasingha says, oh, faith is the whole thing. No, it's not the whole thing. There are many other factors that go into being a guru. Just because a disciple has faith doesn't make that a fact. So people had faith that Narasingha was absorbing their sins, that Narasingha is another Jesus, like Messiah, and he can take their sins. But what happens if he is not in that capacity? What if he cannot take their sins? What if he is a neophyte and he can't absorb the sins of other neophytes? Just because people have faith that he can take their sins does not mean he can. So faith is not a substantial argument for proving that someone is a guru or an avatar or anything else. There's many avatars in India, and people think this is Krishna's avatar or Shiva's avatar or Durga's avatar, but just because they have faith that this person is an avatar does not make them an avatar. Faith is not the determining factor by itself. It's an assistant to the process, but it is not the main element. Then the godbrother asks, is there more than one pure devotee manifest on the planet at a time? Narasingha Maharaj, certainly. Srila Prabhupada used to say there were many pure devotees living in Vrindavan, chanting 100 rounds japa daily, but it is not so easy to find such devotees because they usually keep themselves hidden from public eye. Many of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers were also pure devotees. Sripad Keshava Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, to name a few. As Srila Prabhupada once said, my spiritual master did not initiate fools. Okay, so this is another big problem. The Sridhar Maharaj program says there's many, many, many pure devotees on the planet, but Prabhupada never said that. If Prabhupada had some idea that there was another pure devotee on the planet, he would have told us, okay, when I leave, you're all going to go over to take shelter of this pure devotee over here, or that pure devotee over there, and they will continue giving you instruction because they're pure devotees. That's not what happened. He never said that. He never said there's a bunch of pure devotees over here or over there, or there's even one pure devotee anywhere. He would have told us, here is another pure devotee. When I'm gone, he can carry on the legacy. He can advise you. The opposite happened. He warned us, do not go to the Gaudiya Matha. Do not go to Sridhar Maharaj. Do not go to the Babajis. Do not go to the other Vaishnava Sanghas, because they are not bona fide. He never said, oh yeah, there's plenty of other sanghas and societies and pure devotees floating around all over the place. So this has started a sort of a wild goose chase looking for the other pure devotee. Oh yeah, there's plenty of pure devotees, so people are looking, where is this pure devotee? But, we don't know. And neither does Narasingha identify who that pure devotee is, really. It's just, there's pure devotees somewhere. So that's like saying there's $1 million taped to the bottom of a trash dumpster in Los Angeles. And there's 500,000 trash dumpsters in Los Angeles. You got to find $1 million under one of those. They could take you several lifetimes to look under every dumpster in Los Angeles. It's a wild goose chase. We shouldn't send people on these wild goose chases. Why are we sending people on a wild goose chase? Go find a pure devotee somewhere, not even knowing where there is one, or if there is one, or where and how to attain this person, and so on and so forth. It's a wild goose chase. Rather, we should tell people, look, we have a pure devotee here. Here are the books of the pure devotee. Read these books, and this will connect you now to a pure devotee. But he's not doing that. He's diverting people. Oh, you don't need to just read Prabhupada's books. You can go find another pure devotee somewhere else. And many people did. They ran off to the Gaudiya Matha, they ran off to Narayan Maharaj, they ran off to the Babajis, they ran off here, there, everywhere, following this advice of Narasingha Maharaj. Go find a pure devotee somewhere else. And if people are going to go somewhere else to find a pure devotee, then ISKCON is going to become an empty ghost town, which is what happened. We sent everybody out of ISKCON looking for pure devotees somewhere else, then ISKCON is dismantled, which is what happened. Then the godbrother asks, wouldn't it be better if everyone just was a Rhythmic Acharya and initiated disciples on behalf of Srila Prabhupada? Narasingha Maharaj, that is all right, but we are not Sikhs. That is the conception started by Guru Gobind Singh. He announced that there would be no more gurus, only that a body of Rhythmic Acharyas would initiate. Since then, Sikhism has become a dead religion. We are not interested in that. Well, wait a minute. Sikhism is, first of all, not a dead religion. It's a very widespread religion. There's a lot of followers of Sikhism all over the world. Here in San Francisco area, we have like 10 Sikh temples. Plenty of Sikhs all over the place. It's not a dead religion. And it's very offensive to say that it is a dead religion. And Srila Prabhupada never described the Sikhs as a dead religion either. He was very appreciative of the Sikhs. And we even stayed in some Sikhs' house with Prabhupada. When we were in India, we went to some Sikh's house, and he was cooking nicely for us, and he was very appreciative of Prabhupada. So we shouldn't insult these people, that they're dead religion people. That is not what Prabhupada did. So Narasingha Maharaj continues, we are members of a living conception, a living sampradaya. Yes, okay. And who are your living people? You have a living illicit sex, living sexual predators, living drug addicts, living debauchees, living deviants, living homosexuals who are predators. They're living. Jaitirtha was living, but he was having sex with followers and he was taking drugs. Just because he's living, that is not the qualification of an acharya. Living, a dog is living. And Sulochan used to say that a dog is more advanced than the acharyas of Sridhar Maharaj because a dog will not ban, beat, harass, and kill Vaishnavas, whereas Sridhar Maharaj's gurus will have Vaishnavas attack. So a dog, it's safer to worship a dog than to worship the acharyas of Sridhar Maharaj. So yes, a dog is living, but a dog is not molesting children. So a dog is more advanced than the acharyas of Sridhar Maharaj. Narasingha Maharaj continues, this Rhythmic acharya idea is a dead conception. Where is the life? The life means I must become pure. I must surrender. I must embrace a life of unalloyed devotion, and I must preach. But what are the Rhythmic acharyas going? Nothing. Simply sitting back and pointing with the finger of the crippled faith towards the so-called disqualification of others. Okay, that's false. The Rhythmics are saying someone has to be qualified to be a guru, and that person is Prabhupada. We're not simply pointing to the disqualification of others, we are pointing to the qualification, the actual qualification that's needed to be a guru. And Sridhar Maharaj's debauchee acharyas are not qualified. That's all. It's simple. And Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada said Sridhar Maharaj makes false gurus. So, in the meantime, the Sridhar Maharaj program itself is dwindling. That is the dead program. They never really had a substantial moth in the United States to start with. And after Sridhar Maharaj departed, there was a big fight between the Tripurari group and the Govinda Maharaj group, and this group and that group and the other group. They don't get along. They don't agree. And Sudhir Krishna was one of the gurus, and he evidently fell down and ran off taking some money and so on and so forth. So he was a guru, but he had all kinds of problems. And Tripurari Swami was criticized by his own followers. His own followers criticized that he was making a bunch of gay disciples and he was not trying to get householder disciples. And then there was criticism that he had a female secretary. And then there was criticism that he was living an opulent life while some of the people who worked his book tables were not getting any benefits now. They worked very hard for his program and now they have nothing. So, and so on and so forth. So the gurus in the Sridhar organization were not qualified either, we would say, from all different points of view. So we're not just making undue disqualification of these people. They disqualified themselves by their own activities. And moreover, the dead thing is the Sridhar movement. The Sridhar movement, after Sridhar left, has virtually gone off the map. We don't find it anywhere in any prominent situation. It's not going strongly anywhere that we can see. Those with the Rhythmic mentality are like Duryodhana. They cannot see the good quality of others. In this way, what they want to say is that they alone are qualified at least to judge the qualification of others. This kind of thinking is a Vaishnava against the devotional line. Well, there you have it. As soon as we said debauchees are not acharyas, we were against the devotional line, we were a Vaishnava, we were offenders, and so on and so forth. And that's why we were being banned, beaten, sued, removed, and sometimes assassinated, because we were the Vaishnavas, the offenders. So he's setting us up to be severely, viciously attacked, maybe even physically attacked, and maybe even killed. And then he goes on. Another argument is the Rhythmic Acharyas are saying no one is qualified, but they have not seen everyone, so how do they know for sure? Okay, well, we may or may not know for sure, but you have to name the specific person who is pure. You can't just say we don't know anyone or no one. That's just very impersonal. We need to know who is the specific person that you are promoting as a pure devotee. No, we haven't met everyone in the world, and we're not saying we have met everyone in the world. We're saying you have to identify your parampara, you have to identify your pure devotee, and you are not doing that. You're giving us Sridhar Maharaj, who appointed a bisexual deviant as the Acharya in 1936, which means he doesn't know what an Acharya is. He appoints wrong, unqualified people as Acharyas. Then he promoted the 11, the GBC, which means he doesn't know that they are not Acharyas. So we don't need to know for sure, but even in a general way, without specifically, we know these people are not Acharyas. So then Narasingha continues, it's the same old story. A man says he has not seen anyone who has seen God, therefore he says nobody has seen God, but how does he know? Has he met everyone and inquired, have you seen God? No. And if he met someone who has seen God, who would believe him? Probably not. So, fine, but again, you're not giving a specific person here. Consider this point also. Srila Prabhupada had at least 5,000 disciples. Many of them are still carrying on Krishna consciousness even to this day. Now, do you want to say that none of them have become qualified? None of them have become Krishna conscious? If that is true, then why on earth would you want to become a disciple of Srila Prabhupada? Okay, we didn't say they're not Krishna conscious. We didn't say they're not advanced. We didn't say they're not qualified. We said they're not acharyas. They're not gurus. They're not qualified to take the sins of others. Swami Narasingha continues, after all, not even one of his disciples became qualified even after following the process for almost 30 years, then what is the use of you following that process? Certainly it must be defective. If one is a professor but none of the professor's students have qualified to pass the examination, then why should I want to enroll as one of his students? I would do much better for myself to find out a professor who has got some qualified students. Then at least I might have a chance to qualify myself. Okay, so the qualified students of Sridhar Maharaj are sexual predators, drunkards, drug addicts, criminals, people who orchestrate murder. These are the qualified acharyas in the Sridhar Maharaj Sampradaya. So why would we want to become one of his students and follow that process? Why do we want to worship sexual predators who are orchestrating the murders of dissenters, which is what Sridhar Maharaj established in 1936 and re-established in 1978? We have to worship sexual predators, deviants, molesters, pornographic Swami watcher people. These are the people we need to worship under the Sridhar Maharaj Parampara. And he's the professor of that program. So why would we want to follow his program? That is a good question. So Swami Narasingha continues, do you follow? Those who are preaching this Rhythmic Acharya conception are actually doing great harm to Srila Prabhupada's movement. Yes. We're not worshiping sexual predators as acharyas. That's very harmful. Just see what he's doing. It's good to worship Sridhar's sexual predator acharyas. It's bad to worship Prabhupada. And he continues, this rhythmic idea is a dangerous conception. It simply leads to the grave. It has no life. Well, the ISKCON movement became a ghost town under Sridhar's idea. The temples became empty. Even Lokanath Swami wrote in 1988, around then, that the temples have become ghost towns. The temples are empty. Where did everyone go? Well, they left because Sridhar Maharaj's program kicked them out. Sridhar Maharaj's program kicks out people, bans people, beats people, removes people, exiles people, and makes their life dangerous because they're Vaishnavas. So sometimes they get beaten up and murdered as well. So that's what happens to the devotees. They're banned, they're beaten, they're removed, they're exiled, they're assassinated. Isn't that the idea that leads to the grave? So then the godbrother asks the next question, but how can we know for sure if a godbrother is qualified paramahamsa or not? Narasingha Maharaj, first you must surrender and become a pure devotee of Krishna and your spiritual master. Then you will know for sure who is who. It takes one to know one. Right. So we know that Srila Maharaj promotes sexual predators as acharyas. We know that he promotes drunkards as acharyas. We know that he promotes orchestrators of crimes and murders as acharyas. So does it if it takes one to know one, then what does that say about their credibility? In any case, just, to summarize here, what he's really saying is anyone who worships Prabhupada is worshipping a dead thing and not a living thing. It's a deviation. It's the end of the parampara, etc., etc., etc. But if we worship Sridhar Maharaj's nice debauchees and sexual predators and molesters and drunkards and drug addicts, then we're on the right path to Krishna. No, that is not the right path to Krishna. Now, as a final note, I would have to say that Narasingha Swami is another one of these people who encouraged my godbrothers and himself to take the sins of other people, which Prabhupada said you cannot do. You neophytes cannot absorb the sins of other people, and if you do, you will get sick, you will fall down, and you will have problems because you cannot absorb sins. But he goes ahead and he absorbs sins, and then he dies of cancer. And many of the other victims of this Sridhar Maharaj program have also fallen down, got sick, and died prematurely because they are not qualified to take sins. That's rule number one. A neophyte cannot absorb the sins of others. And for Sridhar Maharaj to say, oh yeah, go ahead and absorb the sins of thousands of people, and tell neophytes to do that, he is causing them to fail, if not die. And Narasingha is another person who died in that process. And while B.G. Narasingha is dying in the hospital, dying of cancer, laying on the bed, almost ready to expire, he's holding Sridhar Maharaj's book, Sri Guru and His Grace, in his hands. In the book, Sri Guru and His Grace, it says acharyas go mad after money, woman, and followers. So he's promoting the idea, even at his deathbed, that acharyas are mad fools who are chasing women, chasing money, chasing followers. So, excuse me, that is not what acharyas are doing. And no one should say that's what acharyas are doing, because that is destroying the conception of acharya. And also, he had to make a fund me to, get money for his cancer treatment. That means he didn't have sufficient disciples and followers who could fund his illness. So he goes through all this trouble of taking the karma of other people, and they can't even take care of him when he's dying. So he's taking their karma, and what does he get in return? At least the ISKCON gurus, they take people's karma, which means they're going to go to hell for that, but at least they get some medical treatment while they're still here. The Narasingha Swami, he takes karma and he doesn't even get the benefit of free medical treatment. So he's just taking karma for no reason. He gets no benefit whatever. But as Srila Prabhupada says, people who unauthorizedly take karma, they have to suffer. They have to suffer. And one story Prabhupada told is that a guru took the karma of a bunch of disciples, and then he died, and then the disciples were dying, and the disciples were very shocked and surprised to end up on Yamaraj's planet after they died. They thought their guru had taken their karma, but he had not taken their karma. So they were on Yamaraj's planet, and they were very angry at their guru for cheating them. So Yamaraj makes an arrangement that those disciples take birth as ants, and the guru takes birth as a snake, and the snake goes over top the anthill, and the ants all come out and eat the snake alive. And that is the karma for taking other people's karma without authority. So these are very dire warnings. Don't take karma, because then you take birth as a snake and you're eaten alive by the ants. It's not a very highly prescribed process. But these guys jump into it, and Sridhar Maharaj tells everybody to do that. Jaitirtha, go ahead, take sins. Tamal Krishna, go ahead, take other sins. Everybody, getting this advice is having problems later on because they're not qualified to take all this karma. Anyway, I have no ill will towards B.D. Narasingha. Let him go, hopefully, to a better destination. Hopefully he'll learn from all this. Hopefully he'll start to understand. We can't go around saying acharyas are mad fools. We can't challenge people who are worshiping pure devotees. We can't say that worshiping a pure devotee is a dead religion, and so on and so forth, and insult worshiping of the acharya. We can't insult worship of the acharya as the dead thing. I'm living, so I'm more important than the acharya. He's a dead guy. The acharya is a dead guy. I'm the live guy. I'm important because I'm living. Yeah, but you're not living now. No one lives forever. And Gaur Govinda said the same thing. I have the living lips. I have the living lips. Yeah, but you're dead now. You don't have living lips now. So therefore we should rely on the living instructions of Prabhupada from his books, from his lectures, from his tapes, and hear from him and get living instruction from him because he is the authorized source of instruction. I hope this helps